Ladies, gentlemen, and Haradrim of all ages, Diablo 4 is finally releasing in just under a month, right near the beginning of June, and there are plenty of us sitting here waiting, just chomping at the bit to play the game, wanting to experience the full breadth of the game and really just get to enjoy that beautiful Diablo world of pure pain and torture. For now, though, we are waiting. Well, mostly waiting, because there's actually one more public beta type event happening this coming weekend, and in preparation for this final chance for any and all players interested in trying out the game before release, I thought it'd be good to go over 10 things that you need to know before diving on into the Server Slam event coming this weekend. Number 1 is the dates of the event. This is going to last from Friday, May 12th at noon Pacific time until Sunday, May 14th at noon Pacific time. For anyone who took part in the 2 beta weekends beforehand, it's worth noting this event is 1 day shorter. It ends 24 hours earlier, so just keep that in mind when planning out your playtime for this final testing period before the game itself. On a similar note, number 2, characters from the beta weekends will not transfer over to the Server Slam. No matter what you did in the previous beta weekend, it will not stick around for this Server Slam. None of your level 25 characters are still around, not even one, and so if you did take part in previous open play opportunities for Diablo 4, and you want to be a part of this Server Slam as well, just be prepared that you'll be starting over from level 1 once again. Number 3, characters from the Server Slam will not transfer to the full release of the game. This should generally be expected, as this is essentially just a final beta test with an emphasis on the servers, but none of the characters you create during the Server Slam weekend will be saved for the full game. I would have assumed this personally, but I've seen people asking, so I thought it a good idea to clarify. When the full game is released and the early access happens for the heftier pre-orders, you will be starting fresh at level 1 once again. This is essentially a testing period both for us and for the developers. Specifically this time around, they wanted to test the servers, and so they want as many people as possible to be playing at the same time. They want them to be playing the same parts of the game at the same time, but for us, this is one of the last chances that we'll get to check out the various different classes, maybe some different playstyles for the classes we already like, and just prepare mentally for the full release of the game, as well as enjoying one last bit of time that we are allowed to play for before the month-long wait until said release. Number 4, maximum level of 20. If you've played the beta test weekends, you'll likely be aware that the level cap during those was level 25. They locked you to only a couple of zones really, and this was simply what we had access to. In the Server Slam, however, you will only be able to get to level 20 rather than 25, so 5 levels lower. This doesn't limit the actual content that you can access as far as activities to do, and you'll still be able to unlock all of the different unlocks that were unlockable in the beta weekend for the full game, such as the couple of titles and the Lone Wolf pack that you get for hitting level 20, but it does mean that you won't be able to try out some of the further skills unlocked in these skill trees for the classes, including notably the ultimate skills, which are our big, flashy, long cooldown moves. And that's honestly quite a shame, but I sort of understand it as they want to try and maximize the amount of people in each server at a time, so limiting the amount of exceedingly flashy effects while doing so may just help them do this in a sort of stages. Number 5, bonus item for killing a Shava. Again, those who took part in the beta weekends prior to this will likely be aware of the world boss that was a part of these, a Shava, who would show up over the course of the Saturday of these test periods, offering a relatively difficult fight that can be taken on by up to 12 people at a time, decided upon by the dynamic matchmaking from the servers, placing you with other players in the world, and even with 12 players, this could take upwards of 10 minutes to kill, even with characters that were majorly level 25. But this world boss will return in the Server Slam event as a sort of main character, as during this specific event, you get a bonus item for the full release of Diablo 4 if you defeat a Shava at level 20. Yes, specifically if you are level 20, so no riding on the coattails of others, you have to get a character all the way to level 20 and also kill the world boss. Doing so will get you a mount trophy in the full game, which is just sort of a slice of a Shava's horn that you can have hanging from your horse as you ride along. As for the timings for the spawn of Ashava in the Server Slam, you'll first spawn on Saturday the 13th at 9 AM Pacific time, and then for every 3 hours afterwards until Sunday the 14th at 9 AM Pacific once again. So for a 24-hour period, which is a pretty reasonable number of spawns, and given the last one is on the Sunday right before the servers actually go down, there is a fair amount of time to hit level 20 beforehand as well. Number 6, expect server issues. Yes, I know no one wants to hear this, but this event is called a Server Slam. It's called this because they want to stress test their servers as much as physically possible. They want as many people to play as they can, and they are likely going to try and have the minimum amount of servers open at the same time, as they can just really use this to test the limits of their servers on an individual level. This means you should expect queue times on the first day of the Server Slam event. You should expect some lag. There will probably be disconnects, and ideally this won't be indicative of major problems on proper release, as again, they're doing this event with the specific purpose of pushing pushing their servers to the limits beforehand just to see how much they can handle individually. There were some queue times and disconnect issues in the open beta which wasn't done for this purpose, so expect at least the same, if not even worse, to begin this weekend. That said, expect it to lighten up significantly throughout the weekend as they fix things. One notable thing about the public beta weekends is that connection and queue time issues from the first day of these betas were nearly all cleared up by the second and third days. Number 7. Class changes enacted. After the beta test weekends, the developers made a point of making a blog post going over a number of changes they decided to make based on the stats and feedback they got from player testings and having their hands on the game for these weekends. A big part of this was some changes to each of the 5 classes themselves, so even if you played all 5 classes before in the previous beta, things will quite likely be different for those classes this time around. A big example is that Barbarian as a class now just takes 10% less damage from all sources just overall, as a baked mechanic of that class. Nothing you have to spend points on, it's just part of the way the class functions as a default. There have been some level of changes for every single class, so don't assume that everything is the same as it was before. That said, they've said they don't expect to make any further changes before the launch of the game, so while the classes will feel a bit different in the Server Slam to what they did in the beta weekends, they should feel nearly identical in the full game as they do in this Server Slam event. So give your favorite class one last test to check it out and make sure you still drive with it. Give your second preference another chance to see if it happens to overtake your first. Just mess around with stuff, really. Number 8. World Tiers. This is arguably more important this weekend to remember than the previous beta weekends, as the unique item reward for the full game from the Server Slam weekend is from defeating Ashava at level 20. This shouldn't be unachievable by any means on any of the world tiers, but it's worth mentioning if the only reason that you are playing this weekend is for this purpose, then you should reconsider which world tier you play on. World Tier 2 is the one that feels the most balanced and actually fun to play as far as the ones available in the early version of the game that we have. World Tier 1 generally feels just a fair bit too easy, but given everything again, if you just want to get to level 20 and just want to defeat the world boss at level 20 and that's it, then World Tier 1 is a very viable choice to make it a little bit simpler to achieve that, to make it easier, and to make Ashava die easier at the end. Number 9. Tons of stuff to do. As I said earlier on, we are locked to level 20 this time instead of level 25, but that doesn't seem to have changed any of the actual available content, aside from some of it potentially just being a bit difficult to accomplish at this lower level cap. We'll still have 3 available strongholds, 23 or so dungeons that we can complete, tons of cellars and event quests and main and side quests, just lots of stuff to do, not to mention that you may want to check out some of the dungeons again, even if you've done them before, as part of the changes made by the developers due to the beta weekend were actually layout changes to a number of dungeons. Nearly a third of the dungeons that we have in the beta have had their layouts changed since then to make them feel less like you're backtracking when you're completing them and more like you're always progressing in some way. So if there were any dungeons that particularly annoyed you in the past, maybe give them a try again and see if the changes affix that feeling for you. Number 10. Savor the experience. This point is quite simple. The full game releases in early June with a few days of early access for those who pre-purchased the deluxe edition or above, and that is nearly a month away. That means a month of waiting without playing Diablo 4. Sure, for some that is totally doable, but for others, depending on how hyped up you are, how excited you are for this game, it may be agonizing. With that said, play the Server Slam. Get the most out of it that you can. Enjoy your remaining time with the game before release, because we didn't originally expect to even have this extra injection of early playtime for Diablo 4, and the fact that we are getting it is a bonus in itself. So really just make the most of the time that we'll be having here so that you won't regret it for the next month or so of waiting for the game. And that's everything, everyone. Just 10 things to know and be aware of before the Server Slam event comes this coming weekend. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's helped you out in some way, shape, or form to prepare for the Server Slam. Like if you like the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.